Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Nip and a Half Fantasy Football Podcast on this Sunday evening, 9 o'clock. Thanks to everyone who is joining us. We've had the FA Cup weekend. We've got Europe coming up. So the focus has probably primarily been on TFF and DreamTeam. There's a lot of sort of intricate stuff going on there. How was your fantasy? Oh, go on.
You say that, but with injuries and suspensions yesterday, it actually has a massive impact on FPL now as well.
It does. You're absolutely right. Let's touch on FPL first. But firstly, Paul, how are you, and how was your fantasy weekend?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. I've not long back from Easter Road today, where Hibs beat Hearts in the Edinburgh Derby.
Nice.
So yeah. Absolute worldy winner from our left back who hadn't scored before today as well. So yeah, it's been a brilliant day, and it's mother half's birthday this weekend, so had things on yesterday. So yeah, doing really well, and it'll be the biggest wrestling news in 30 years last night.
I saw, and I don't even follow wrestling.
Yeah,
incredible.
So it's the most viewed clip on WWE, WWF ever,
Really?
And it's only been up for it was only up for 12 hours at the time as well. Oh. So ever since Hogan turned heel in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So brilliant weekend, mate, and fantasy's going pretty well actually. Like, I am running low on transfers on Telegraph, albeit my rank's pretty good in DreamTeam. I'm sure we'll get to, and because I messaged you the move that I made with 3 minutes to go before deadline on Friday, which paid off handsomely as well.
Good stuff. So FPL, how did you do last week?
53 points, which got me a small red, and I know we've not podded for a couple of weeks, so I had a decent-ish green the week before, but I'd played my triple captain on Salah, so that's me at 650k, so still pretty meh. 32nd in the Ultimate League, and now I've got a bit of a mess to deal with, although I can still, if I intend to do so, can get even without Cunha, I can still get 11 players with no hits in 29. So
nice. I had my worst week. You'll be pleased to know in FPL for quite a while. My only returner, looking at it, Salah captain with the assist. Actually, I'm fibbing a touch. Trent and Gabriel clean sheets, obviously really highly owned, and Mbemo assist, I think it was. Other than that, shambles. Pickford, Robinson, Palmer, Semenyo, Dango, Wood, and Cunha. Wood came on for Isak. But yeah, I'm personally kind of welcoming the chaos because I've still got 3 transfers, so I quite like the fact that Isak, Cunha, likely Hall, even though he's not flagged yet. I know Hall maybe missed it for quite a while, and Gordon. So all the Newcastle, all the popular ones, right? Hall, Gordon, and Isak all look like they may be in a bit of trouble for next week. But yeah, it just didn't go my way this week. I kind of avoided the scorers. But yeah, just the way it goes, really. As I say, because I've been purposely trying to hold the transfers back, the more chaos for me, the better, because people will be taking hits, or they'll be kind of having to keep players they don't really want. Whereas hopefully I can make some flashy moves from 29 onwards. I think I'm hoping. I'm really trying to just get to 29. And then to make a couple of moves for 29 and 30, wildcard and 31. Even though with the FA Cup draw earlier, it's all kind of wide open. I don't think it's going to be. It wasn't typical FPL season anyway in the doubles, because of obviously what kind of change in terms of replays and things. But the kind of teams that are going through as well, it doesn't feel like there's going to be any like these massive game weeks where sort of 7 or 8 teams are going to double. So what's your initial thoughts? Has your strategy changed at all off the back of the FA Cup or anything?
Only because I'm like losing players and forced into things, and I know that the benefit of wildcarding in 31 over 30 is the extra knowledge on the FA Cup games, right?
There is that, but also a lot of the players we've got in our teams now have all got really good fixtures in 30 as well. They're all that's the extra one as well. So just having a quick look towards, if we just look at game week 30, Bournemouth got Ipswich. Wolves had West Ham, obviously with Cunha. he's out now. City would have had Leicester, so if you got Haaland or Marmoush or whoever. Newcastle would have had Brentford, Palace, Southampton for any of those holding on to them. Obviously Liverpool and Everton, and Chelsea and Spurs. So Salah and Palmer are looking kind of nice there as well, aren't they? So
Yeah. So I don't. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not wed to anything. Like I said, I can get to 29. I can get Haaland in as well,
yeah.
but I can't. I would need to sacrifice one of Palmer or Salah to do so, and with both having nice fixtures in 30. But then so does Haaland. So can you really have a good team with all three of them in it anyway? And if I don't do that, would I be willing to take one hit to be able to field all three of them potentially as well? So yeah, I'm still pretty happy with my current plan, albeit the challenge I've got is my team doesn't look great for this week coming, and any permutation of moves is downgrading one of those big hitters, and therefore I'm not going to do it this week. So I'm not going to then use another transfer to strengthen my team this week. So it's going to look a bit of a mess.
I'm not that excited about Haaland against Brighton in 29. I think a few weeks.
Who would you captain?
I'm not sure, but is it worth using 2 or 3 transfers just to get a misfire in Haaland against, at the moment, you've got to say, a very informed Brighton team? I'm not so sure. Against Leicester in 30, in 30, they're obviously a really, really good option. But there are alternatives in terms of Salah and Palmer, but I'm not convinced really. Like, you could probably go for Marmoush. And okay, it depends how much transfer value you put on a transfer like in FPL, but a lot of people are going to have to use at least 2 transfers, probably 3 in directly or indirectly to get to Haaland, and get rid of Salah or Palmer.
It's a protection against the free hitters, though, I think, as well.
Yeah, I'm just not as bullish, because we have to think of 30 as well. Liverpool home to Everton, Chelsea against Spurs. Are you really going to want to go without Salah or Palmer there? I'm not sure.
That's what I say. Like I can get all 3 with a hit.
Yeah.
So, but again, it means not making a move this week. Albeit when I look at, other than maybe like a Chelsea midfielder against Leicester on top of Palmer, I'm not sure who I want with those fixtures anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Welcome everyone in the chat. Windy is in. Chris Harvey says, a big week in TFF. 99 points, clearing 29 points on the lead and within 70. It's going to be tough. Hopefully, they can push on now with 19 remaining. That is a lot of transfers there, Chris. There's so many opportunities for Telegraph. We'll touch on some of them now. I think our first 4 for 0 materialised earlier, which is insane. Dave Hannigan is in. Colin Johnson. Viney said, I hope no one went Mateta to Cunha to Gordon over the weekend. I bet there was a few Mateta to Cunha to Isaks, I reckon.
Right, that was me.
No. Sorry. I was at least you got some returns. At least you got the goal. At least you got the points.
Yeah, I mean, he might not play next week, but he's not. He doesn't look injured. Like, but
no, you're right. Ollie Paul is in. He says Pedro, Dango, Cunha, and Hall in my FPL team, and other idiots embracing the chaos. And Colin says, last 7 weeks, Haaland has outscored Palmer by about 15 points. And bear in mind, Palmer, hasn't he? He hasn't scored for 7 weeks now, has he? Or something? He's scored 1 in 7 weeks or something like that. Steve Ricks is in. He said, I went with Rashford, captain in Dream Team, 22 points, so not bad. Well played. Cloudy, Sky FF Ian is in. Colin Johnson says, Palmer to Enzo. Just to cover it, not too sure about that personally. Yeah, anything more to add on FPL? I think it's just a case of being flexible, and like as we know, right, we're still quite a while away in terms of the calendar, in terms of Gameweek 30, 29 and 30 anyway. So much, as we've seen this weekend, so much can happen. It's absolute chaos in there. So bring it on.
Those that went Beto was just like, it's just like He's still got two games. He's now got two decent games to
Yeah.
run with as well, on
Yeah.
top of the other options that are up front.
TFF.
Smashed.
Should we touch on that? It's been a busy week for you by the sound of it.
How many points did you get this week?
I've looked at your points, and I think we're in like 5 points of each other, so it's not
Ah,
too bad. But I did. Spoiler alert. I took Isak out on, was it Monday night when they played, or Tuesday, whenever it
Wednesday.
was.
I took him out. I took him out as well, and that's
Oh,
why I did bring him back in.
hated it. It was such a. It was Ollie Poole actually in the chat because I was out for a walk and I thought it was all sort of all team was sorted. And Isak's out, so it massively interrupted my walk. So I was there with the old planner out and looking on my. I hate looking on the phone as well. It's just too little. I was like, "Rrr." And I think I made the right moves. I was thinking of taking out because I couldn't go straight to Haaland, so I had to make a second move. I was tempted to take out Van Dijk, which I'm glad I never. I did, I looked at the fixtures. Da da da. I ended up taking out Palmer for Isak. Palmer and Isak out for Haaland and Gibbs White. Gibbs White only scored 3 points, but he does have now four games quite close together, as does Haaland actually, because the way the FA Cup has landed in quite a small stretch. So I'm quite happy with that. Obviously, Van Dijk then kept a clean sheet the following evening, and does have Southampton as well, which I'm probably hopeful of something there. So I'm down to 13 transfers now, which by the sound of it is maybe one or two more than you. But I've got a plan. If we just look at the planners, if you haven't seen, Ian Parron's got a fabulous fixture planner, and so has FF Stuff. But I've lucked out a touch because I didn't really consider this in the 10 minutes I had to sort out my team. But I can go straight back from Van Dijk to Palmer because of my formation and the money I had in the bank, which is a really nice move. Really happy with that. But I have lucked out a touch there. But as we alluded to earlier, Bournemouth actually have got, I think it's the first 4-0 of the season so far, with the way the FA Cup has landed over Liverpool. Let me just have a look. Yes, 4-0 starting, and the fixtures I think from an attacking view are quite decent. Away to Spurs, that could be anything. Home to Brentford, home to Man City in the FA Cup, and home to Ipswich. So I've already got 3 Bournemouth, but I am contemplating going in a touch heavier, maybe getting another 1 or 2 for this period, because their fixtures after that, even Bournemouth, are pretty decent, even though they do have a gap in fixtures after West Ham on the 5th of April. But we can just kind of move on there. So sorry, I'm kind of rambling a bit, as I tend to do on TFF, because there's so much to think about. But I scored 87 points this week. The clean sheet best for Palace against Millwall was a bit of a gutter, bit of a dampener there.
Yeah.
But other than that, 13 transfers, not the best. Probably can use another 3 or 4 over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think. But yeah, it's getting to the time now where you have to think about who you're taking out. Because when I bring Palmer in, he won't be going out again because I can't afford the to and fro. So it sounds like we're both heading towards that period, don't it? Where every move sort of counts. You have to think of it as a season long move almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got 12. I brought in Marmoush rather than Haaland, so I didn't need to make double moves, which hasn't worked out that well. However, and I know I've made a few moves this week. I've only been rotating a single 2 slots, so I've not destroyed my team, bringing other players in, such like. So I've still got all the players that I want. I'm going to tell you, I've still got the 3 Bournemouth players already in place for all those fixtures. I've still got double Crystal Palace. I'm going to move on. I don't have a Liverpool player to move on, so I will only be moving Salah on midweek.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm only back, it's only locking in 1 transfer there. So yeah, I've got players that have all the fixtures anyway for that run, and then they just take it from there. I think I'm contemplating maybe Semenyo as an additional Bournemouth player to what I've already got. I think my team's pretty similar to yours anyway. Like once you move Van Dijk to Palmer, I've got Marmoush to your Haaland, which means that I'll have something somewhere else.
I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do Mateta to Wood tomorrow if he starts. I kept Mateta just because I was tempted to go to Cunha and tempted to go, on and on. But I wasn't absolutely convinced that Mateta would miss next week, but I think he will now. But looking at Wood, and I wanted to see how the FA Cup played out and how it's fallen, and I think it's gone nicely for Forest in terms of fixture volume. I don't think Wood started either of the previous rounds, but I do wonder whether he will this time. It's going to be a tough game against Ipswich, harder than, I think they had Exeter last time, didn't they? And I'm not sure they had the round before. But yeah, and then Van Dijk to Palmer, and then maybe a Palace player to a Bournemouth player or two to take out Salah as well. I'll say there's a lot going on, but this is why we always say at the start of the season, this is the period where you make all your gains, right? Because you can absolutely pile in teams and just dominate in terms of fixtures.
Yeah, I've moved up to 58th overall as well. I've got
Nice.
I've got 4 teams exactly the same, so 58th to 61st overall with all those.
Well played. Let's just have a look how far you are ahead of me. Probably, I think it was like 100 points at last shout. It's probably not far off the same.
1539 I've got as overall points.
1539. I've got 1437. So yeah, you're 102 points clear, as you say. It's probably not going to change much, is it? Because we've got similar teams and similar transfers. But up to 1.6k now, which I know is nothing to shout about at all, but far cry from where I was a few weeks ago. And like I say, I've still got even now. I think all my players have got lots of fixtures still. And I'll just keep moving around like that and just see where we end up. Viney is 47th with 12 transfers left. Dave Hannigan says, are we all allowed a meltdown if Wood is red carded or injured tomorrow to add to the list? And Colin says, yeah, it could be complete madness if he does from both the TFF. Didn't realise he's 25 percent, or he's between 20 and 25% owned in TFF still, Wood. I think like at last weekend when Wood scored and they kept a clean sheet, I think it was. I didn't move, and I was really surprised because I had like a defender or whatever it was. And I didn't move because Wood is so highly owned. It's pretty insane. Dream Team. Oh, so sorry. Let's just chat just briefly, maybe just on TFF about these potential opportunities and the gaps. The big one is we've mentioned. So Bournemouth from next Saturday at 5:30 will have a 4-0 over Liverpool. And the way the FA Cup has fallen, teams such as Man City, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, Forest, and Ipswich have all got 3 to 4 to fixtures. To everyone else is sort of 1 or 2.
And I wouldn't fret about a team having 3 to 4 rather than 4 fixtures, because you're going on the 4-0 on the assumption that you're putting that player that you've brought in straight back out for Salah. Yeah. Whereas what you might end up doing is swapping another player for him, and therefore you're gaining an extra fixture out of that player, the other way around. Like, so for example, Aston Villa's got 3 games in that period, but you might decide, because if you think Villa will beat Preston in the FA Cup and you might want to keep, say, Watkins or Rodgers longer term from that, then you'd move on somebody else. So I certainly wouldn't only be looking at Bournemouth because it's the only 4-0. I'd be looking at those other teams that have players that you might want to keep longer as well.
I think as well, from a kind of strategic view, we have the international break for the second half of March, and then the first bit of football back is FA Cup weekend. I think then, so my kind of thinking from a sort of macro level then is we're going to know the final 4. And also off the back of that, then I think what I'm going to do is make sure that I've got the funds to get all the expensive players I want, because we're going to have to start thinking about dead-ending our teams at that point. I mean, if you've got average sort of transfers, and even players like Munoz, regardless of kind of how he works out. Maybe potentially even like a Fulham defender, Anthony Robinson, a Forest defender. One thing I'm definitely going to do is not get someone like Van Dijk back. Maybe even not a Gabriel, just because they just haven't got the fixtures, they haven't got the FA Cup. And I know we're going to probably want to put all our money up front in the, maybe Palmer's, maybe Bruno, Haaland, Salah, Saka maybe. So I think I am thinking of that as well. I'm not going to be bringing in any expensive defenders at all. I don't think, because when it comes to dead end time, you don't want to be not able to squeeze in. Say we might finish the season with Salah, Isak, and Haaland, which may or may not be likely. You're gonna have to have some significant sort of gaps in your in your team and your placements, aren't you? And it looks like defense and keeper is the way to go. Good stuff. Dream Team, you're absolutely flying.
Yeah, I've had quite a few good weeks on the bounce. 82 points for this week so far. The main one being, well, I did take out Martinez for Rhea, and I'd say that's obviously in hindsight doesn't look great when Martinez got 2 fixtures and kept a clean sheet in one of them, but I was always going to do that move, so I've got no regrets on it from that front. And I was very close to burning my second transfer. And I sat at 6 o'clock on Friday and I just had a look at a few things. I was starting to get really nervous about how many Villa and Ipswich players I had, knowing that they blank in 2 game weeks' time. And this wasn't updated in the planners for good reason, was that the FA Cup games weren't shown on it. Yeah. And I kept forgetting that there was a double after the international break. So if I'm loading my team with players just to avoid having Villa and Ipswich in 2 weeks' time that's going to get a single game that week, I can't get more than 2 Villa and Ipswich players the following week.
Is it Palace you're talking about? Sorry, not Ipswich, is it?
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
You said Ipswich about 3 times then.
Yeah. I don't know why it's on. I think it's because Palace is playing Ipswich this week, and I've got not taking Munoz out of my head in the plan for it. Yeah. So, long story short, I was like, I'm not going to worry about that. And if I have to run through with players, like I'm pretty sure I'm going to have Munoz in my team blanking that week and not bother. Palace have a good double now. As soon as they come back after the international break, and I'd rather attack it. And we know that defenders score less points than any other positions. Midfield.
Well, not sure about Munoz, but yeah, in general.
Yeah. So I looked at Asensio's minutes and thought, well, he only played 25 minutes midweek, so I was pretty confident he was going to start against Cardiff. I thought there was a good chance that he might play the number 9 as well. I know he's played there for Spain, and there was talk about resting Watkins, and I knew that Malin was ill. So yeah, 6.27 brought in Asensio for Palmer. Look, it could. I'm going to go into Thursday night without Palmer, and he could get a haul against Copenhagen. But I do have the second game out of Asensio as well to make good on that transfer. So yeah, pretty happy with it. Munoz 10-pointer. Just like I said there, he's in my team and he's not coming out regardless if he's doubling or not. And I know they've got that double straight after the international break. Foden, Haaland, I'd consider taking them out next week. Single away to Forest. I'm not really sure still what I'm going to do next week. I captained Bruno, which I felt most people did. I know you'd mentioned someone in the chat.
I checked the top 40 teams, and I think there was only about 2 or 3 who hadn't captained Bruno. There was a couple on maybe Rashford and Watkins and something like that, but there wasn't many.
Yeah, and I've got Watkins as well. I've got 8 points. Fortuitous with the assist, I think, but we'll take it. So 82 so far before the European Games. Pretty happy with that. I'm up to 85th overall now.
So that bumped you right into the top 100 then, that Asensio. Yeah. Oh, mate, there's no better feeling, is there? No better feeling.
Especially 5% owned in the top 1K. Just getting a differential haul. Nothing hits like that in fantasy football.
Yeah, we've got similar teams. I kept Palmer. You were a move ahead of me, which is why you've been able to kind of go for these punts sort of week on week. But yeah, I'm on 65. The only difference is our team. I still got Palmer. He's not leaving my team. I did the Martinez to Raya move, but again, the way I've been playing this season is I've just played, I think, just sensibly, and I've just held players with fixture volume. In terms of Martinez, I think lots thought he was out. I think his ownership dropped quite a lot. Happy with Raya. Even though Arsenal don't look great, I think Raya, if you can afford him, is probably, well, I don't know. I don't know about season keeper, but all depends obviously how they get on in the Champions League. But I think they've got quite a favourable draw in PSV compared to a few of the other teams. So hopefully, I'm hoping Arsenal get through. They're just holding for a while longer. On my other move, I know I wanted Munoz. I hate having players, especially when they've got a home FA Cup game at home to a team like Millwall, who you just don't own, who know they're gonna get 8, 9, 10, 12 points wherever happens. So I was torn between Van Dijk, who I was very lucky last week, I must say, kept back-to-back clean sheets against Man City and Newcastle, which was very, very unexpected. That kind of, I wouldn't say it saved my season, but it stopped me. If Liverpool had conceded in both of those games, I'd probably be down. I'd probably be down about kind of 60 or 70th now, which is no disgrace. But it seems I was like 15th a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really lucky with those. So I wasn't sure whether to get rid of Porro or Van Dijk for Munoz, and I was going to get rid of Porro because I'm just not sure he plays against Alkmaar or plays moving forward, because Spence and Udogie are both available, and according to lots of Spurs fans, Porro is having a bit of a nightmare at the moment, but his ceiling's very high, and the fact that I expect Liverpool to concede against PSG this week anyway, just thought it was worth going for Porro. So I did that. Watkins and Rodgers. I'm happy holding Rodgers. He'll definitely play midweek. I just think he had a rest against Cardiff. Foden and Haaland, Salah, Trent. So I looked at the top 100 ownership, and I had the top 11 players on Friday pre transfers. All 11 were my exact team, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I'm hoping Palmer kicks off this week for obvious reason. I'm hoping Rodgers can do me a favour as well as Oro. So I actually got quite a surprising green arrow this week. I think I was 39th, and after the weekend, I didn't think I did that much, but up to 29th, which I was quite surprised at, because everyone who scored was reasonably high owned. Munoz, it must have been Munoz, and Foden and Haaland. Actually, I don't think they're as high owned as we think anymore. Maybe so.
Yeah, Foden was 48%, and Haaland was about 60, I think.
Yeah, so they obviously all returned, which is really nice.
We're interested in your thoughts on transfers this week.
Yeah, it's just really hard, isn't it? It's really tough. So I was kind of all set to maybe get rid of Villa, not this week, the week after, but now that they have got the double after that, and it's pretty decent, Preston in the FA Cup and Brighton, I was all set to get rid of Foden and Haaland. Or obviously the FA Cup is kind of squeezed in there. Like I said, I don't think that Brighton game in isolation is a particularly profitable game, but looking at the captaincy for Gameweek 29, which is when we come back after the break, and the only teams with double, Man City, they'll have Bournemouth in the FA Cup and Leicester at home. Villa will have Preston away, Brighton away. Palace will have Fulham away, Southampton away. Bournemouth, Man City at home, Ipswich at home. Fulham and Brighton. I think Haaland just looks like a real standout captain there. So this week, maybe if I was you, I'd be going for Palmer.
Yeah, I'm doing either Foden or Asensio to Palmer.
Yeah, I would do that. In terms of my team, I'm really not sure because I do think as well quite a bit depends on how the first legs in Europe go as well. If one of the teams
Yeah.
lose, if PSG batter Liverpool 3-0, or it's kind of different there. I like the look of that Liverpool run. Southampton at home, PSG at home, Newcastle at home, then in the final, potentially without Gordon, potentially without Hall. And then the week after that, then they're home to Everton, even though they do have a single. But I suppose I'm just glad. I don't know what moves I'm making yet. There's a lot of football still to be played, but I feel it's going to be the first time in about a month where I can make forward-facing transfers instead of playing catch-up, which I've been doing up until now. So I know that's incredibly unhelpful. I probably haven't given anything at all, but there's no one team now that doubles all the way through, is there? As far as I can see, they've all got a gap.
No, double, single, double Villa.
Yes, Villa do, but obviously they blank, don't they?
Oh, sorry, they double
They
blank, double. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
that's it. Um,
Sorry, it's Man United. I knew there was one team. It's Man United,
Man United,
but you're not. But yeah,
but
outside the Bruno,
who are you going
outside
to
the
go for?
Bruno.
They got Sociedad home and away, and Arsenal at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than Bruno, there's no one really. So I think we're gonna have to wait to see how Europe plays out.
In fact, Man United don't, and now Man United don't. So I'm talking nonsense because they got beat by Fulham.
Oh yeah, you're right. They're away to Forest in 29. I'll I think I'll be taking out one of Foden or Haaland this week. Maybe for a Liverpool player, I think. Other than that, I have no idea. But I do want to
Spurs,
hop back on for that.
Spurs were in my thoughts as well,
Yeah,
and Arsenal. In fairness, like Gabriel could be an option. I don't think he's particularly great on the bonus on it, but they're double away to Man United, the home PSV. I think that's good. I think that's a good double for them. And for Spurs, it's home to Bournemouth, home to AZ. So I'd kind of had thoughts about Son, but if I took out both City players, I know that I'm going to want both of those City players back in on the week after the international
exactly.
break, as well as maybe Palace, maybe Villa. So.
I think a lot depends on the results this week. I think it's PSV turn Arsenal over 2-0. There's no way you're going for Gabriel next week because they'll be out of Europe. Well, they'll likely be out of Europe then, won't they? Because they can't score goals. Yeah, Villa are
Yep.
different. And looking at Spurs and Chelsea, I think Spurs and Chelsea are quite heavy favourites, and Arsenal, whereas Liverpool, United, and Villa are a bit closer, I think. So I think a lot depends on the results this week as to what moves going to make. But it's very intricate, and it makes a really interesting game. I gotta be fair. I think all the fantasy games this year are very intricate, and I think there's such a lot to think about with all the different things that are going on. I think these FA, I think, I think most of the big teams being knocked out of the FA Cup has kind of changed the landscape of what we're normally thinking about at this point. And it looks like the way that is it right? All the English teams are all on the one side as well in Europe.
Yeah.
That that we're not used to either, right? In terms of teams will definitely get knocked out earlier than we expect as well. So I don't think we're going to have these massive doubles at the end that we kind of normally have for these teams. So it's going to be interesting. It's good because it makes you think, right? And it sort of really helps engage managers, I think, in terms of how you navigate through these weeks to make sure you've got the highest owned captain, to make sure you've got the danger players, but to also try and make sure that you've also got one or two punts to help you rise at the ranks. It's very, very
Yeah.
difficult in all formats, I
As
think.
I say, like in Dream Team in particular, with this run coming up, I think there's definitely variation in play, and I think the template will start not changing to a new template, but opening up the player pool
I th-
over the next few weeks.
I do, but I also think that if it works out, that maybe I don't know. say Spurs, Villa, and Liverpool, or Arsenal, say get knocked out of Europe, we'll see a massive shift to teams going heavy towards one or two teams, which I think will kind of spoil the game.
Yeah, in like 4 or 5 game weeks time. I'm
Yeah.
meaning more in the short. I'm
Yes, of
meaning more in the
course.
shorter
In the
term. I think
short
there's
term,
going to be.
yeah. And the FA Cup has made it interesting, right? Because we got these players who, over the seasons gone by, we would never really be interested. You know, players like Munoz, players like Kluivert, Cunha. I know he's out now, obviously, but we've had these players that have really, really turned up this season and keep on doing it, keep on scoring well, don't they? And yeah, Mbeumo, Vissa, yeah, and they all keep scoring. So it's gonna be interesting in a few weeks. Yeah, any final thoughts on Dream Team? It just feels to me like it's a bit of wait and see at the moment. I know that's incredibly vague, but I have to see how this week plays out, I think. How's the
Leaderboard?
Yeah, leaderboard.
You're sitting just outside the top 10,
Oh, it's ninth.
top 10 and
I was
11th.
ninth yesterday. Spewing.
Dan Sherwood in 10th, Peter Clinch in 9th, Martin Burke in 8th, Darren Malloy in 7th, Alad Walcock 6th, Dale Pointer in 5th. I'm sitting 4th, Gavin Shirley 3rd, Tom Gledhill 2nd, and Johnny Curry out in 1st still. Looks like there doesn't look like there's any slowing down on Johnny as well.
No, absolutely. He's flying again in Dream Team. He's about 30 points clear of me at the moment. It looks like Johnny and maybe Tom have potentially sewn up first and second, the ultimate leaderboard, barring some kind of complete and utter disaster. But I haven't got it in front of me because my screen, I've got my screen quite sort of minimized. But from memory, third all the way down to about 16th or something is quite tight in terms of mini leagues, like maybe 4 or 5 sort of points in between them. Is that right? Have you got it in front of you?
Yeah, it's just tight. It's tight all the way down, really. I think till we come to like 32nd.
Oh, really? Wow, blimey.
There's movement. There's movement. There's not many gaps between position to position down from 3rd.
It's a hard season this season. I don't know kind of how you feel about it, but there's weeks when I think a good week this week. Come on, I go and check my mini leagues and check the ultimate leaderboard. And I just haven't moved. And in some cases, I've gone down. It's like, how can I go down? I've had 4 goals and 3 or whatever else, and he's low owned and this, that, and the other. But the quality of Fantasy Manager in this ultimate leaderboard across the board is absolutely insane, and it's a joy because it's great to see so many people so heavily invest in the game and playing so well. But it's also tough because it's an absolute grind. And it really is hard. Even this weekend, it's like a Munoz goal. I think it was like a Kluivert goal. Thought I did sort of reasonably well in Telegraph. Haaland, a cheeky assist. I don't think that high. And just a couple of points here and there. I think I've gone down on the ultimate leaderboard. How can I go down from when I've actually done all right? It's quite frustrating, but yeah, it's just the quality of the managers. So yeah, really well played, everyone. You're all getting on my tits, but it's also a joy to see so many top managers absolutely grinding it out for all these places. Superb stuff. Anything more to add, Paul? Any sort of tips going into the next week or so?
No, I like what I mentioned about the Dream Team. I wouldn't be too worried about necessarily getting 11 players out in 2 game weeks time, because just think about the doubles that you'd miss out on the following week or the doubles next week by playing like that, I think. And that was the way that I was honed in on, and have like taken a step back thinking when the FA Cup games were coming in, and thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. I think if you try and chase 11 players coming out every game week now, you're probably going to find yourself, you may do okay in the 1 to 2 to 3 weeks, but you may find after your moves behind everyone else. So I think that's a really good point. And I would just say in Telegraph, strategically, just start, especially if you're down to our transfer account. I know there's plenty of great managers who've still got plenty of transfers left, but really take a look at these planners. There's 4 for zeros, 3 for zeros, 4 for ones everywhere you look. And it, I'd be tempted to, this Bournemouth, they've got 4 for 0 over Liverpool. They've got 4 for 1 over Newcastle, 4 for 1 over Palace, Everton, Southampton, Brentford, Forest. Be tempted to just, if you've got like 20 plus transfers, this is the time to really try it. Because if Bournemouth get a couple of good wins, like 3-0 wins, and the fixtures are decent as well, you can really fly up. So this is the time, and just make sure that, think if you're down to our transfer count, just start thinking about who are the players you're taking out, because you're going to want them back in. You don't want to be down to 7-6 transfers, making hygiene transfers, taking Haaland in and out, taking Palmer in and out, and go cheap at the back, I think, as well. And FPL is tough. I still try and grind through 29. I don't think Haaland is absolutely essential, I gotta be honest, but we'll see. Thank you, mate. Good chat. Interesting times. And we'll be back. Should be back next week, some point, Sunday or Monday. Thanks to everyone who has listened in, and we will see you all soon. Good night, all.